is what the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, led by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, has said to the American people and to the United States Congress and the Republicans in Congress. If you Republicans don't agree to make the federal government $1.5 trillion, not million dollars, not billion dollars, $1.5 trillion bigger, we're going to shut government down. Well, of course we said no. I'm not going to vote for that. My mother didn't raise a fool.
2025년 10월 1일부터 시작된 미국 정부 셧다운이 지금 한 달 넘게 지속되고 있는데요. 공화당과 민주당의 의견 차이는 둘째치고 이 셧다운이 지속되고 있는 본질적인 이유가 있습니다. 한번 들어보시죠.
What a ridiculous waste of time. What a painful, ridiculous waste of time for the nation. I can't tell you how frustrating it is because I've been here long enough now to be able to see what the negotiations look like. Let me tell you what it just looks like for the last few years even. Let's go back just through the Biden administration. Every single end of September, as we approached the deadline for government funding, this body had a conversation, do we want to remain open and continue negotiating or do we want to shut down? And every single time during the Biden administration, this body said it's harmful to the American people and to federal workers to have a shutdown. Let's keep things open and continue to be able to negotiate. So the end of every September, which is the end of our fiscal year, this body voted to keep the government open and to continue to negotiate. But what happens when the Trump administration comes? Well, during the Trump administration, Democrats have determined that they want to show they're fighting and raging, they're the resistance against President Trump, and so they've determined the best way to do that is just to be able to shut the government down. Well, who gets to pay the penalty for the resistance? And what does that really look like? We've had several votes that have happened here where we've had what's called a clean continuing resolution. This body knows it well because we voted on 13 of them in the last 4 years. A clean continuing resolution, and passed all of them. It was just a moment to say, can we keep the government open and continue to negotiate? The body determined, yes, let's keep negotiating, but let's not hurt federal workers and their families, let's hurt members of the military and their families, let's not hurt them, let's keep the negotiating here. So we did that 13 times in just the last 4 years, until now. My Democratic colleagues, as the President knows full well, have brought forward a proposal. Their proposal is titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions and Other Matters. No, ours is just titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions. Theirs is titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions and Other Matters. It should make you say, well, what are the other matters? Well, ours just keeps the government open, that is Republicans, just keeps the government open. It's status quo, where we are. Same level of spending, same functionality, that's where it focuses in on. My Democratic colleagues have brought their own proposal, which is $1.5 trillion in spending addition, and they include a couple new little nuggets in there, and other matters. They throw in like Section 135, which has a new element on carbon management expenditures, dealing with fossil fuels. They have a new section on climate change initiatives that are built into their and other matters. They have Section 154, which is getting additional funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They have Section 2306, which allows a new extension of electric vehicles getting access to HOV lanes. These are the demands that they put in to say, we will not reopen the government unless we get electric vehicles into HOV lanes, and additional money for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and carbon management expenditures. And oh, by the way, there was a $50 billion rural health care fund that Republicans passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They also want to get rid of that $50 billion rural health care fund. $50 billion would really be a huge help for them. We have called that the moonshot to be able to bring rural health care up to the standards that they need to be across the country. They just wiped that out and included that in their in other matters section. Listen, we have disagreements on things. It's not we're just through different parties. We come from different states and different areas. We have different perspectives. Welcome to America. We have different opinions on things. That's what this body is supposed to be about. But when we have disagreements, we should be able to actually sit down like grown-ups and talk to each other and figure out how to be able to solve it. That's what actually should be done. This is not a radical concept. This is a pretty straightforward concept. Surprisingly enough, my colleagues have agreed with me in the past on this. Let me just give you some examples. My colleague, Senator Ben Ray Lujan, in September of last year said shutting down the government should be a non-starter. My colleague, Senator Mark Warner, said government shutdowns unleash chaos on federal workers, delay pay for service members, and weaken our position on the global stage. My colleague, Bernie Sanders, said shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services. My colleague, Senator Elizabeth Warren, said the least we can do, the bare minimum we can do, would be to pass a continuing resolution to keep the doors open and the lights on. And how about this one? Oh, I've got to find my favorite. My colleague, Chris Murphy, and my friend, made the statement, there's a time and a place to debate health care, just like there's a time and a place to debate energy policy, immigration, and education, but not when funding the federal government and all the lives that are impacted by it hang in the balance. I could not agree more.
민주당 의원들의 모순적인 행동을 꼬집은 후 랭크퍼드 의원은 어떻게 하면 애초부터 정부 셧다운을 차단할 수 있을지에 대해 얘기합니다.
I have a bill that's called Preventing Government Shutdowns. It's very straightforward. It just says if we get to a moment like this, instead of federal workers and their families suffering the consequences, we do. We have to stay in session 7 days a week. We can't move to any other bill other than appropriations. And we have to be able to get our work done. It is as simple as if you don't finish your work at class, you have to stay after class to finish your work. But it holds everyone else harmless and puts the pressure on members of Congress where it should be. The last time we had a vote on this bill, we had 56 votes, and one member that was absent that day stated publicly would have voted for it if they'd have been in that day. So we would have had 57 votes. We just need 60 to be able to make this thing law, and so that we would literally never have a government shutdown ever again, ever. We would still have the debate on budget issues. We're going to have issues of budget disagreement. That's going to happen. We don't agree on everything. We should have the fights on budget, but we should have the fights here and hold everyone else harmless in the process.
트럼프 대통령도 이에 대해 발언했는데요. 공화당이 통과시킨 크고 아름다운 법안이 죽음을 가져올 거라고 발언한 민주당 의원의 주장을 정면으로 반박했습니다.
But we passed a bill. We don't need to pass any more bills. We got everything in that bill. There's nothing else we have to put. We got the largest tax cuts in history. And, you know, remember, they lie. And what they say, they make up stories. And I saw they were interviewing a senator, and they said, well, what's wrong with their bill? He didn't know what to say, because there's nothing he could say. It covers everything. He said, death. Death. It brings death. Now, if I'm a regular person and I hear that, I say, oh, that's terrible. But it's just the opposite. It brings life. It brings Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. It secures all those things. And they just are so bad. You know, they said death. It was like death. And there's nothing about death. Theirs is death. Because they're going to lose Medicaid. They're going to lose Social Security. They're going to lose Medicare. All of those things are going to be gone because the whole country would be bankrupt, and you're not going to have any kind of medical insurance. So with us, it's the opposite. And I want to just say from the beginning, our message has been very simple. We will not be extorted on this crazy plot of theirs. Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats need to vote for the clean bipartisan CR and reopen our government. It's got to be reopened right now.
여기까지 언론에서는 잘 다루지 않는 미국 정부 셧다운의 일부 내용이었습니다. 여러분은 어떻게 보시나요?